Hello imbibers, welcome back to today's session. Like yesterday, we have discussed about the structure of pollen grain. Today we are going to discuss about what is pollination, yet be self-pollination or cross-pollination. We are going to discuss about what is pollination in our today's topic. So children, I hope you guys must have attempted your pre-class activity. This is available on the Embibe app. If you join us on the Embibe app, you can attend the post and pre-class activity before coming to the session, and after the session gets over, you can attempt the post-class activity, which is going to help you understand the concept in a better way. Yes, we are here with the another topic called pollination of the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, and let me introduce you to myself again. I am Anam Khan. I'll be your botany expert for the session 2023 and 2024. I'm here to make your board examination easier, trying to explain you everything, conceptualizing everything, explaining everything topic by topic. Since we have started with the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, we have come this far. We have completed till the structure of pollen grain, and today we're going to start about the pollination event. Yes, the most important event in the reproductive cycle when the male and the female gamete meets each other, okay, through the pollination process. Okay, so starting our today lecture on the pollination, let's see what we have. So children, you know these are all the topics which have been already covered during all the lectures. Since we have started the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, we have discussed about the flower, the reproductive organs in the initial accessory, of course, the accessory of the flowers, the reproductive organs, the reproductive parts of the flowers. We have this in detail discussion about the megaspore and the microspore, of course, the megasporangium and of course the microsporangium, their structure, megasporogenesis, microsporogenesis in detail. In short, we have discussed the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part in detail in all the respective session. So, if by any chance, if you have missed any session, you can always go and watch in the post-Embibe classes there on your dashboard, always present. Okay, so today we're going to discuss about the pollination, and after the pollination has been completed, we're going to discuss about the outbreeding devices, then the pollen-pistil interaction, then of course the most important feature of the angiospermic family, which is the double fertilization, then the post-fertilization events, seed and fruit formation, apomixis, and of course the polyembryony. Everything will be discussed in all the respective sessions. Okay, let's see what we have in our today's class. So today it is all about pollination. We're going to see what is pollination, what is different types of pollination existing, and what are the means of different kind of pollination events. Okay, so it is all about what is pollination. Yes, and what we have to do, we're going to go through. Yes. So children, how does a pollen grain reach a flower? So yesterday when we discussed about the pollen grain, we saw the structure of the pollen grain. We see there is an exine, there is an intine, and there is a germ pore. Yes, the pollen grain shed at 2 or 3 cell stage. This is also we have studied yesterday. But it's okay. The pollen has matured. The pollen is ready to fertilize. The pollen is ready to fuse with the female gamete, but how to transfer the pollen only? Yes, how does to transfer the pollen from the anther to the stigma so that it reaches the female gamete and fuses with the female gamete? Yes, so what is pollination? This is what pollination is all about. What? The transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma by any means, that is what you called pollination. Simply the transfer of the male gamete to the female gamete, this is what you called pollination. And it requires a lot of agents. The vectors are responsible. You know what are agents? Agents which act as a mediating method between two of them. Yes, to make the pollen grain reach to the stigma, we have agents to do that. And what are the agents to do all this particular process? As an agent, the insect work as an agent, the wind work as an agent, the other animals work as an agent, the water also work as an agent. So by any means, any agent could be utilized. Yes, any agent could be utilized to transfer the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma. Yes, and what kind of a flower existing to transfer the pollen grain to the stigma? We're going to learn about that only in this session. So, but right now, the simple definition of pollination is that it is the transfer of the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma through the various agents. And agents could be air, water, animals, of course it could be anything. Yes, as you can see there in this asset also, this is how the bee is being transporting the pollen grains from one flower to the another flower. So this is the basic function, this is the basic definition of the pollination. Okay, is this clear? Is this clear, Nandini and Tausif? No, you're not too late, we have just started, Tausif. It's completely fine. Is it clear, children? What is the basic definition of pollination? Yes, the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma through the various agents. Clear? Everyone, is it clear? Moving forward, talking more about the pollination events, let's see what we have. We're talking about the types of pollination. Yes, there has to be different types of pollination. Okay, existing in a plant. We can't stick to one. There are different methods to make the pollen reach to the stigma. Yes. So children, there are different types of depending on the source of pollen. Yes, it could be an autogamy or self-pollination. In this method, you might even not need any agent to transfer because it is autogamy, it is self-pollination. Yes, it could be Gitnogamy, it could be Xenogamy or cross-pollination, or could be called as Allogamy. One by one, I am going to explain all these things to you. What is autogamy, or what is self-pollination, or what is Gitnogamy, what is Xenogamy, or could be Allogamy. So let's explore the types of pollination existing in the flowering plants. From the very first, we're going to discuss about the self-pollination. Let's see what is self-pollination. As you know, children, the name only already suggesting what is autogamy. Autogamy means the self-pollination. Yes. So children, talking about the self-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from the same flower. Yes, within the same flower. You know, there are plants, there are flowers which have both reproductive part on the same flower. The anther and the stigma are on the same flower. Yes. Then when you transfer the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, that is what you called self-pollination. Yes. So, talking about the autogamy, talking about the self-pollination children. So, the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of the same flower to the stigma of the same flower. Same flower I am talking about. I am not talking about the different flower of the same plant. I am saying there is a plant, there is a flower which have both the reproductive organs. There is a both reproductive part. One is the anther, the other is the stigma. As you can see, the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of the same flower to the other part is called autogamy. It is called self-pollination. Yes, but the most important part, the most important thing, okay, we will come to that topic. Just wait. There are several other types of pollination. Will be explained all the things. This topic will also come. So just wait. Be calm. Be patient. Everything will be discussed. Okay, talking about the autogamy, this kind of a pollination, children, is only feasible when the synchrony is there. What is synchrony? That the pollen is already matured enough to germinate and the stigma is receptive. Both the male and the female reproductive part should be matured enough to receive the pollen grain. The stigma should be receptive to receive the pollen grain and the pollen grain is viable to germinate on the stigma. This is what you called synchrony. Okay, this is what you called synchrony. And children, the stigma and anther should be this much close to each other so that they can be come in contact with each other. The anther, the pollen grain can come in contact with each other. This is what you called autogamy. Yes, clear what is autogamy? One by one we'll discuss everything. Same species, same flower, different flower, same plant, different plant, everything will be discussed. Okay, right now starting with the basic thing, which is autogamy. Same flower, both the reproductive part as in the same flower, and the anther is having the pollen grain transferring from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, yes, that is what receptive, that is particularly conditioned to receive that pollen. Yes, I would not specifically say sticky, but that is only contribute that it is being receptive only. Yes, the microsporo, the megasporogenesis is already done. Yes, the egg cell is already present. The pollen tube formation can take place because the pollen can germinate and the pollen tube could be formed. Everything, it contributes to everything. Yes, clear? So this is about the autogamy. Next, the next type of a pollination is the Gitnogamy, which is the Gitnogamy. Let's see what we have in the Gitnogamy. Children, talking about the Gitnogamy, and we have Cosmogamous flowers. Cosmogamous flowers, or what kind of a flowers is called Cosmogamous flowers? Children, talking about the Cosmogamous flowers, we have flowers with exposed anther and stigma. In short, I can see the Cosmogamous flowers are open flowers. Yes, the Cosmogamous flowers are open flowers in which the anther and the stigma both are exposed. The anther and the stigma both are exposed, and they allow the cross pollination. Yes, we are not talking about cross pollination over here. We are just explaining you the Cosmogamous plants. The Cosmogamous flowers are those flowers which are having exposed anther and stigma, and they allow the cross pollination to take place. Yes, Cosmogamous flowers, open flowers. Next, we have Crystogamous flowers. What are Crystogamous flowers? Talking about the Crystogamous flowers, children, these are closed flowers. The Crystogamous flowers, in the flowers remains closed. The flower remain closed. What do you mean by the flowers remains closed? It means the anther and the stigma are not exposed. They are closed. The flower is closed and the anther and stigma are in the close proximity, and they typically autogamous. Yes, what else means of pollination do they have other than having the both stigma and anther close to each other for the autogamy or the self-pollination? Yes, and they basically produce an assured seed set, the kind of a seed after the fertilization, has taken place, after the fruit formation has taken place, the seed set, the seed arrangement would be simple, typical seed arrangement, assured seed set arrangement will be there. Okay, so children, such kind of a flowers which undergo the process of autogamy or self-pollination, they do not show the genetic variability because same flower, closed flower, same stigma, same anther, they are not exposed to the external environment, so they can receive the pollen grain of different genetic condition. So that is the reason, children, we have the flowers which guarantee seed settings, they have very less genetic variability due to autogamy. So these are closed flowers. Clear? So this is Cosmogamous flowers which are open flowers, Crystogamous flowers which are closed flower. Talking about the Gitnogamy, children, in detail. Before that, we have a question for you. Yes, Cosmogamous refers to the condition in which What kind of a condition is present in the Cosmogamy? The flowers remain closed, the flowers are absent. What kind of a condition is Cosmogamy? Yes, quickly answer. It has to be very simple. Very simple. Yes, children, simple answer. The Cosmogamous flowers are flowers which remains open. This is absolutely very simple. Yes. Next, which option is true for autogamy? What do you think is true for autogamy? Just now we have learnt about the autogamy. Yes? Yes? Okay, the examples of Crystogamous flowers. Children, the pea plant. Can you see? We have pea plant, yes? The seed cell is always same. The pea plant is showing self-pollination, autogamy. There are closed flowers in the pea plant. And the famous example of Cosmogamous flowers is always hibiscus. Have you seen hibiscus? Yes? Yes or no? Have you seen hibiscus? Both the parts are exposed to the external environment. Simple. Yes, children, come on, quickly answer, explain which is true for the autogamy. Just now we have learnt about it. What is the true for the autogamy? Yes? Everyone? Simple, absolutely. The transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of the same flower. Yes, this is what you called so. Talking about the Gitnogamy, children, talking about the detailed discussion of the Gitnogamy. So, what is Gitnogamy? Children, simply the Gitnogamy is the pollination takes place between the two flowers of the same plant. What do you mean by Gitnogamy? Can you see this? This is the same plant. The same plant have one flower and the two flower, second flower. And when the anther have been placed in one flower, the stigma is on the other flower, in which the transfer of pollen grain is from one flower to the another flower of the same plant. This word is very important when you discuss about the Gitnogamy. The transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of same plant. Yes, in this we need agents. In this we need pollinating agents. We need pollinating agents, and they are also genetically similar to autonomy. Of course, same plants only. When they have a same plant, so genetic variation will be not present. Yes. So, that is why it is also a type of what? This is also a type of autogamy. Yes, this functionally similar to cross pollination. Why similar to cross pollination? The similarity with the cross pollination is just that because the two flowers are involved. Yes, the basic similarity between the cross pollination is that the two flowers are involved. There might be a same plant, but we have involved two flowers. So that is why it is functionally similar to cross pollination. Is it clear what is Gitnogamy, children? Is it clear what is Gitnogamy? Everyone? Yes? Do I need to explain you again what is Gitnogamy? Any part which is not clear related to Gitnogamy? Yes. Talking about more about the pollination, we have seen autogamy or self-pollination, same flower having both male and reproductive part. Next, Gitnogamy, same plant but different flowers. So next we are going to talk about the other, which is the Xenogamy. So what is Xenogamy? So children, what is it? Quickly listen very carefully. Talking about the Xenogamy, the pollination is taking place between two flowers of the different plants. This is a typical cross pollination. There is one plant, there is second plant. The pollination is taking place from anther to one to stigma to the another. Two different plants are involved in the pollination. So this type of a pollination is called Xenogamy, and it is a typical cross pollination which is ecologically also or genetically also different. This is a typical cross pollination. In the Gitnogamy, there is no genetic variation, but in the Xenogamy there has to be genetic variation, and ecologically also there is a variation. So ecologically and genetically, typically it is a cross pollination, because here the two different plants are required. Children, remember, of same species, not of different species. The same species would be required. Yes, it has to be of same species. Okay, otherwise the pollen might not germinate. Okay, so children, the transfer of pollen grain from the one plant to the another flower of the another plant of the same species is called Xenogamy. Ecologically and genetically they have variations. So this is the other type of pollination: autogamy, Gitnogamy and Xenogamy. Clear? Clear, children? I hope this is clear what is Xenogamy, Gitnogamy and autogamy. Talking about more, so children, you know, sometimes just now we have strictly basically discussed there are two types of flowers existing. One is the Cosmogamous flower, the other is the Crystogamous flower. Cosmogamous flowers are what? Open flowers. The Crystogamous flowers are closed flowers. Yes, the examples are, the common examples are common pansy, viola, oxalis and communilla are the examples of Cosmogamous and Crystogamous flowers. Okay, the open flowers and the closed flowers. We have already discussed about this. Next, you know, this is what we have discussed. What are Cosmogamous flowers? Since they are open flowers, both anther and stigma are exposed to the external environment. And next we have Crystogamous flowers. Both anther and stigma are not exposed to the external environment. They are closed. There will be no genetic variability since they both are present in one flower. The only possibility for them to fertilize is that the pollen within the flower pass on the stigma within the flower only. So there is no genetic variability and they form a assured seed set. Yes, they form a assured seed set. So what we have studied, we have gone through what is autogamy. Okay, we have seen what is Gitnogamy, and we have also seen what is Xenogamy. For the Xenogamy, children, you know there are two types of plants. So basically, if you see, the Xenogamy is only possible between the two Cosmogamous plant. Yes or no? The Xenogamy is only possible between these Cosmogamous plant, while the self-pollination is the only method of fertilization in the closed flowers. Yes or no? Yes or no, children? The self-pollination is only possible in the closed flowers. Yes or no? Yes? So have you understood, children, all the particular? Yes? Have you understood about all these type of pollination, be it autogamy, self-pollination, Gitnogamy, Xenopollination? Yes or no? Have you understood what are Cosmosmogamous flowers and what are the Crystogamous flowers? Yes? Anything, any part which is not clear, children, to you? Yes? Okay. Nandini, you? Yes? Everyone? Is there any part which is not clear to you? Anything you want me to explain? So you understand why the genetic variability will be only seen in cross pollination. Why there is no genetic variability in self pollination. You know this, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay, great. So children, this is all about the pollination we wanted to discuss. Okay. Moving forward, discussing about, let's see what we have next. We have discussed all these things in detail. Questions we have already solved. Next question. Ecologically, Gitnogamy is cross-pollination. What do you think? Do you think ecologically also Gitnogamy is a cross-pollination? Okay, Tausif, what is Xenogamy? The Xenogamy is the transfer of pollen grain of one plant to the stigma of the another plant through some agent, and this is what you call cross pollination. This kind of a pollination have been ecologically and genetically creating variations. Yes, there is one plant, there is another plant. Pollen grains from one plant is transferred to the stigma of the another plant, but these plant has to be of same species. This is a condition. There is no possibility that these two plants can be of a different species. These two plants has to be of a same species. Okay, so that is why the Xenogamy is typical cross pollination, because there is ecologically and genetically variation. Yes, everyone, is it clear? Now is it clear? Now can you please answer this? Tausif, is it clear? Ecologically, Gitnogamy is cross pollination. Why? Yes, it is absolutely true. It is a cross pollination. Next question. Chances of production of variation and evolution of genetically superior plants are more in, what do you think, which among them has possessed more chances of genetically superior plants? Okay. Yes, the correct answer for the genetic variation superior quality would be only possible in the xenogamy. Xenogamy is the only possible way of having the genetically superior quality of plants. Yes, children, this is what we have to discuss in today's session, which is the pollination. You know what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of male gamete to the female gamete, or simply transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma. The pollination consists of autopollination or self-pollination, Gitnogamy, Xenogamy. We have seen there are two types of flowers also existing. One is the Crystogamous flowers, the other is the Cosmosmogamous flowers. Okay, the Cosmosmogamous flowers are open flowers which have more anther and stigma exposed to the external environment, while the Crystogamous flowers are closed flowers, while the anther and stigma are not exposed to another external environment. In the next session, we are going to basically discuss about what? We will discuss about the outbreeding devices and of course the pollen pistil interaction in the coming. And I have scheduled one practice session also, children. So whatever we have studied till now in the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, we are going to have one practice session for that. Okay. Thank you, Nandini. We are very warm, very much thank you to that compliment. Okay. So children, we are going to have practice session for micro and megaspororangium. I have totally forget about it. Yes, it will be scheduled on your Embibe app. So children, this is all about today's session. But before you go, there's a question for you, children. Do you know that honeybees account the 80% of the insect pollination? So when we're going to talk about the agents of pollination, we're going to discuss about that. Yes. Okay. So this is all about today's session, children. We will meet again at the same timing. The class would be scheduled. Okay, until then, please take care, keep imbibing. Bye-bye.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.